If you're a crafter who likes to check out new supplies and see them up close and in action before you buy them, then this video series is for you. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and today's video is the latest episode of my favorite YouTube series, New and Must-Have Crafty Supplies, where I scour the new product list, check out a bunch of different things that I'm interested in, and share the ones that I love with you. Today's video is super fun, first because we have a really different assortment of supplies, from a foil plate from PinkFresh Studio to the new distress color and lots more. Plus, at the end of the video, I have a big giveaway, so stay tuned to the end to find out how to enter. So first, let's take a look at each of these new supplies and how to use them. We're gonna start with the new distress color, Uncharted Marine. Well, first of all, it's a lot easier to say it's actually Uncharted, not Uncharted Marine. That was a really hard one to get out because it was wrong. But anyways, I usually get these 4 products when a new distress color comes out. I get the Distress Oxide pad and refill. I also get the Distress paint, and then I get the Distress Oxide spray. These are the 4 products that I find I use the most. And so I actually pre-ordered this color. I thought I was going to really love it. I just had a feeling, and it is gorgeous. Now, the labels look very, very blue. Once you get them onto paper, it has more of a teal effect. Now, these labels that I'm putting on here, these are from Ranger, and I've linked them down below as well. They make it really easy to put the color on the side of the ink pad, and I am finding, I saw this on Tim Holtz's Instagram, and I am finding that I like seeing the whole line of color like that. For the bottles, there are 2 different sizes of dots, and I'm using my gel plate with some of the Oxide on there to ink up all of these labels. This was the organization tip that he shared, that he found from another artist, I can't remember who, and they had done this, and it was a really easy way to get the color onto several different labels. So you can see the larger circle here is for that paint bottle, the smaller circle is great for the spray bottle. Then I figured, while there's more ink on this gel plate, I might as well spritz it with a little bit of water and then press it onto an A2 piece of white cardstock, and I love it. I decided to pick up the rest of that color on the paper as well, just to have a background ready to go and not waste that ink. Okay, here are 4 colors that I've picked out from the Distress Oxide line to see how they line up with this new color. And that's what I always like to share here when a new color comes out, so that you know that this new color that you're getting is really not represented in the line of distress inks. So the first one that I'm comparing it to here is Faded Jeans. You can see my Faded Jeans probably needs to be refilled. That's why the square that I'm using from the Catherine Pooler Swatch set is not fully colored in. I also like to ink blend the colors out. So the third one down was the newer prize ribbon, and then the bottom one is chipped sapphire. But you could see these ones underneath are all blue, and that Uncharted Marine really has a teal look to it. So I decided to stamp and then blend out peacock feathers, and it's like a darker, much darker peacock feathers. So it really is not represented in any of the colors that exist in the distress line so far. And of course, I love it because it does have those blue tones to it. And depending on what medium you use and how you use it, here it looks a little more blue. I think in the ink blending, it looks a little more teal. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing with some paints just to create a background. So I have the peacock feathers paint, I have tumbled glass, and I think I have prize ribbon as well. And I'm just using right now a dry brush, but I felt like it was a little too thick. I wanted to lighten it up. So just spray a little water on it before it dries, and you can get it to move around. Once it dries, it is resistant to the water. It is the one distress product that won't continue to react with the water. But I am using a large flat brush from Arteza, and I'm just swiping back and forth with these different colors. You can see I'm really not using a lot of paint at all. And if you add a little water, you get even more bang for your buck out of that color. Check that out. Even with the water added to it, because I didn't want it to be so much darker than the other colors, it's still absolutely beautiful. And I just keep going back and forth and blending and adding more color until I find a background that I like. And this was it. So easy to create. Next up, I purchased some of the new mini blending brushes from the Stamp Market, and I wanted to share with you how much I love them. These are the new blending brushes from the Stamp Market, and like I mentioned, I purchased these with my own money so that I could review them in this video, and I adore them. So I've seen the Stamp Market place enamel dots on the tops of things like blending brushes and ink refills to organize them, so let you know what color you can use them with. So I did that. I used the Breeze enamel dots, and now I am using the Breeze ink pad to get some ink on the bottom of that brush. Now this is a nice teeny tiny little brush, so the price point is amazing, and you can buy a whole bunch of them. I have 4 right now. I plan to get at least 4 more to have the ability to use a lot of different colors with them. So they lock into that little storage holder there, and I think I'm going to show them when I have them up on my shelf with the brush facing out so I can see the colors on them, because as you all know, I love seeing a rainbow of color around me at all times. So I am going to use the next brush with the new color from the Stamp Market, Rosy. This color came out in April, and it is one of my favorite pinks. Breeze is one of my favorite blues of theirs. Rosy is my new favorite pink. I don't know why. I just really love it, and so I thought it'd be fun to blend these 2 colors onto a piece of white cardstock. The great thing about little brushes like this, where you hold the handle from the top, is that it very much controls your, it allows you to have the ability to control the amount of ink that you put down. So you can see I started out very light, and then I added more and more and more until that color got darker. But for me, I have a very heavy hand with ink blending, and so to use a little brush like this is very helpful to me to achieve a lighter and a smoother blend without any lines or just kind of spots that are just a little bit too dark. So the next color that I used was the new Sunshine color, and again I'm putting the little enamel dot at the top. I went back in with some Rosy to create an orange between the pink and the yellow, and then I went in to add for my 4th brush the minty color to add a little bit of green under that blue there, and this just looks like a cotton candy rainbow. It's so light and airy, but you can see all the colors and they're blending together so beautifully and smoothly. So I am very happy with these brushes. And like I said, I really want to have a nice assortment, not like hundreds, obviously, but like enough that I can have ones for like a red and a pink and a blue and an orange and all of that. So I will be adding more to these to my collection. Moving on from blending brushes, let's take a look at this new stencil set from Paper Tray Ink. This is the Pool Water stencil set from Paper Tray Ink. It comes with 2 stencils that fit perfectly on an A2 piece of cardstock, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm using some pixie tape behind them and then some pixie tape on top to hold it in place. So the stencil stays on the paper and then the whole thing stays put on my glass mat. And I am using a domed foam blender this time with the Uncharted Mariner new color to blend on top. And you can see in that corner at the left, I went a little too heavy. The rest of it is fine, but I went a little too heavy on the upper left there. It's okay. Well, I'm gonna go over it with the second one anyway. You could have just kept the first one. Like, you can use them separately if you like the white lines. I wanted this to look like underwater in a pool, so I used the second one to cover up, and then I wanted to cover up all the white lines, so I used a gentle application of prize ribbon without actually dabbing it onto the ink pad, so just to cover up some of those glaring white spots. And that is just a fun little stencil. If you've seen any of my embossing folder videos, you know how much I love embossing folders. I will link to those videos down in the YouTube description box below. But for now, let's take a look at this new embossing folder from Pink & Main. I love Pink & Main's embossing folders because they are 6x6, which means you get a full impression onto all sides of an A2 card. So I embossed it in this new embossing folder, and I'm going to ink blend on top. One of my favorite ways to use embossing folders is to emboss them on white cardstock and then ink blend on top of them, especially with Distress Oxide ink because it's so smooth and creamy. And for this one, I'm actually going to put the ink on the embossing folder and then place the cardstock right on top and run it through my die cut machine. And that results in kind of like an ink press look to the cardstock. So it's just a little bit different than ink blending on top. You get the ink on only the parts where it was embossed. I decided to do then a light coverage of the ink blended on top with the domed foam blender. So again, just another way to layer up that color, and look at how different it looks depending on how you ink blend it or add that color. I have been doing a lot of foiling lately with my glimmer machine. So when I saw this foil plate from PinkFresh Studio, I had to grab it. So this is PinkFresh Studio's stained glass foil plate. So I'm going to use it with my glimmer machine, which I am going to then place on top of once the platform is heated up, and then press the timer button. I'm going to use a piece of A2 cardstock and some Rainbow Spellbinders foil. Now this was my mistake. I should have used a piece of cardstock that was larger than the plate and then enough foil to go stretch to the cardstock, because I didn't get it perfectly straight, and so I cut off the bottom. You can see that there is a line around it that you can foil. Just use a slightly larger piece of cardstock and you'll get the whole thing in. It wouldn't be a new and must-have crafty supplies video without some embellishments, so I grabbed these from PinkFresh Studio, as well as these dark blue ones from Studio Katia. And you all know how much I love the Simon Says Stamp sentiment strips, so I grabbed the Yay You collection of sentiments from Simon Says. Now that we've created a little bit with all of these new products, let's quickly turn these backgrounds into cards. Let's start with this first background that I used the gel press, the Distress Oxide ink, and the Distress Oxide spray. I cut it down a little bit so that I could mat it on some A2 cardstock that I felt like went really well with it. And then I'm going to trim down one of the sentiments from the Yay You stamp set, and I'm going to pop it up on some foam squares. And then once that is kind of centered in the middle of that sort of artistic looking bubble with all the spritz around it, I'm just going to add some of the PinkFresh Studio embellishments, and I'm using my Studio Katia embellishment wand to pick up the gems, and then a little bit of Ultra Bond liquid glue from ThermaWeb to adhere them down. Really simple to pull that together, and I absolutely love the look of that card. So now we're going to work with the painted background. So this is the one where I used the different colors of distress paint to make paint swipes. I cut this one down again. This time I'm going to mat it on some white cardstock, and all of these I am going to use the Simon Says Stamp Yay sentiment strips. So there are a ton of different congratulatory and just positive messages. This time I adhered it down flat, and then I'm going to use the same PinkFresh Studio embellishments just to sparkle above and below that sentiment. You don't need much when you create those really fun backgrounds with paint or ink. Okay, this one I am going to mat on some blue glitter cardstock. This is the embossed white cardstock that was ink blended on top of it. I decided to use the Studio Katia gems this time because I felt like they went so well with that glitter cardstock in the background. I absolutely love these gems. They're faceted gems, flat on the bottom, which makes them really easy to adhere, but it's just the color I think that is so unique. I don't really see colors like this in gems very often, and so I'm really glad to have them. I also love that they come in several sizes in the pack, all the same color. That's a really handy thing to have. So for this one I'm using the larger size, but on some other cards the larger size will be too big. So it's nice to have the option of all three sizes in that one embellishment bag. Okay, the next one is the one that we ink blended with the Stamp Market blending brushes. And this one I'm going to keep really, really simple. I'm not even going to mat it because I just love the colors. And I am going to just use some of the PinkFresh Studio gems, again, above and below, just a few here and there, kind of trickling on a diagonal. That's one way I like to add gems to make your eye move around the card. But I just love these colors together, and it's such a nice soft blend with those blending brushes. Okay, this one I'm using the rainbow foiled background made with the PinkFresh Studio foil plate. So I am going to cut that down since I messed up and I didn't get the rectangle around the whole image. I am going to cut it down and then mat it onto some white cardstock. This time the mat is getting popped up, so it's on some foam tape. And then again, finding my sentiment and trimming it down in my Tim Holtz trimmer there. I'm going to use some foam tape cut in half to pop up that sentiment and just place that. I wasn't sure above, below, middle. I wasn't sure if I wanted to start with green foil on the left or red foil on the left. So just a couple of options here, but again, I think that background really steals the show, so you don't need to add much once you have your sentiment on there and maybe a few embellishments for some dimension and shine. You don't need to add a lot. I did add some of the gems here in a way that covered up some of my overfoiling, but really, honestly, even with a little bit of overfoiling, the rainbow just looks so shiny and great that it doesn't even matter. Okay, for this card, we are going to use the background that I created by putting the ink on the embossing folder and then ink blending on top of that. I have a congratulations sentiment that I'm going to use flush to the right-hand side, and this time I'm going to use the Studio Katia gems. I think they go really well with the Uncharted Mariner color. They just kind of pull out that blue that I saw in the beginning, but now that I'm looking at it on the cardstock, it just looks so much more teal, but it just all goes really well. You may remember the memory box foil cardstock from one of my previous new and must-have crafty supplies video. I had one that I had die cut out a hug sentiment out of, so I decided to use it as a mat for this background that we created with the pool stencil from Paper Tray Ink, and then just cut down another sentiment. I used a ton of these sentiments, but I haven't even cut into 2 of the cards yet. So that just goes to show you how many are included in this pack. You get 2 cards, 2 different designs, and 2 of each of those designs. So I actually matted that one on some little scrap of the foil cardstock that I had left, and this time I'm going to use both embellishments. That's kind of nice that they go really well together, and especially on this pool background, I thought they looked really fun together. Okay, again, I have a piece of glitter cardstock, again, something that I die cut out the center of, and then just put some liquid glue all around that die cut piece that was die cut out. This way you can put your panel down and it will adhere to it with that liquid glue. I did cut some foam tape into thinner strips so that I could pop up, keep up the great work that says, "It's amazing to see you achieve your dreams," which I love that message. I think that is so wonderful to send to somebody. Now the part that you've been waiting for, the giveaway. I have a large USPS priority box that I have filled with a bunch of goodies. Some are doubles of things that companies have sent to me that I've also purchased, and some are discontinued. Some I just have to make some room for some new supplies. All you need to do is have a US address and fill out the Google form below in the YouTube description box under this video. And while this giveaway isn't open to my international crafty friends, just know that we are so close to 30,000 subscribers, and when I get there, I will do a gift card giveaway that anyone can enter to win. So keep sharing videos from my channel and we'll be at 30,000 before you know it. As always, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. You see what I have to work with here? Oh, now they're both going. Take 29 million. I was looking over there. Today's video. Both of those words sounded weird, but we're just gonna keep going. I don't have time for this, honestly. No, I don't like that.